Hello, everyone. Hope you're all doing well. Today, I thought I'd take the time out to share my own personal story of how I've lived with mental health, with depression, anxiety, and borderline personality disorder, just to give you an idea of my own personal story and what I've gone through, and well, in the hope that it might help you out there. I don't know how far this is going to go, but I just hope that it may be of some help to you. Let me introduce myself. I'm Connor Strange. I am a freelance theatre and live events technician. Yes, I know it's a pretty long title. I'm also a Time to Change Wales champion. Time to Change Wales is the first All Wales campaign to challenge mental health stigma and discrimination which is faced by people and their families. I've been a champion with them for about, I've lost count now, since about 2018, I think. And during that time, I've talked to businesses, both large and small, educational institutions, that's colleges, universities. I think I might have spoken to a school. I've spoken in front of 10 people, all the way through to 200. I've even appeared on national television with the BBC. And years back, I did some pieces with ITV about online bullying. Yeah, I've been doing that for a number of years now. And I thought, well, I don't really share my own personal story on maybe social media. And I think that is an important thing, to just be open and honest. Don't get me wrong, it's very difficult. But if this helps somebody else out there going through a similar thing to me, then by all means, I will feel like I've done something. So you might have heard me say stigma and discrimination, but you may or may not know what it is. I'm just going to go through a very, very basic overview of what it is. So stigma is a form of prejudice or prejudgment which can set a person apart from everyone else. It's always negative. Discrimination arises from stigma and results in people being treated unfairly. For example, being teased and abused, not being trusted, losing friends and family, being misrepresented in the media, unemployment, losing a job or not getting a job, exclusion from education and training, and exclusion from social activities and clubs. Those are just, some examples. There are many more out there. So this is my story and how stigma and discrimination affected me. But to understand it, you have to know a little bit about me. I worked as a freelancer in theatre and live events for about 2 years, been in the industry for about 4. I only started going freelance back in January 2020. We all know how that went. And then it was only until about 2021, where things started to get back to some form of normality, and I was able to get some work. I've moved around a lot. I've lived in Wales for most of my life, but I've lived in England for about 4 years, in the Lake District and Oxfordshire. I've also been a volunteer for Hywel Dda Health Board, supporting the COVID-19 vaccination programme. Let's take you right back to the start then, so school life, primary and secondary. When I was in primary school, I was bullied by pupils and even some teachers. I lost confidence in myself and people who I thought were role models. I became very isolated. That led to a drop in performance. In secondary school, things only got worse. I'd receive horrible comments telling me to harm myself, to end my life. And when you're constantly bombarded with these comments, I just got to the point where, honestly, I just didn't want to be here anymore. I remember looking at my school reports. I've even got them now. Looking at, the attendance and comments from teachers. I noticed this, so did family, and I just didn't want to go into school. Some people know about this, some people don't. But I think it's important to know that bullying still goes on today, and it disgusts me to my core that it still goes on today. That somebody can take the time out to bully somebody else. Honestly, it made me feel like I was a failure and an embarrassment, and that I was never going to amount to anything at the rate I was going. At this point in time, I knew that there was something wrong in my mind, but did not comprehend what was wrong until many years later. And I think if you take anything away from what I'm saying, at least take this message. It is important to speak about mental health if you're struggling, and I think you should never have to suffer in silence. I did for many years, and it didn't do me any good. So who did I speak to? Well, I spoke to Mum and Dad at the time. Unfortunately, Dad's no longer here. But at the time, they didn't know what to do or say or how to react. And I think it's a new and unexpected thing for them to deal with at the time. And I think some of my friends at the time, or the very few friends that I had, were supportive, but slowly they showed their true colours and drifted away from me. And I lost trust very quickly in people, and my confidence dropped rapidly. So I went to college in around 2011. I studied creative iMedia. That is things like video editing, sound editing, animation. I had a good experience in college as there were many avenues of support available, things like student mentors, counselling teams, student services and more. For context, I went to Carmarthenshire College, or Coleg Sirgar, in Llanelli, and I felt that I was listened to and that the college wanted to support me. They have 5 campuses spread across Carmarthenshire, and they're part of the University of Wales Trinity St David since I left, who also have campuses across the UK and stretch worldwide now. Yeah, I felt so relieved knowing that there was somebody that actually cared. There was empathy and compassion from staff that I hadn't experienced in the past and made me feel very valued. I ended up becoming a student ambassador and vice president of activities on the student union, and if anything, I felt so determined towards getting to a better place that I wanted to try things that I'd never done before. Anyway, moving forward to 2014, and I moved from Wales to the Lake District in England, and in April of that year, I decided to go and see a GP, as I was struggling with my mental health and needed to speak to somebody. I spoke to the GP, who then referred me on to a psychiatrist. The psychiatrist then diagnosed me with depression, anxiety and emotionally unstable personality disorder. You might have heard me refer to it as borderline personality disorder. Just want to make it clear they both mean the same thing. BPD and EUPD are both the same thing. I was supported, referred to a community mental health team and prescribed medication, and for a long time I was on this really, really windy and bumpy road, not knowing if I was ever going to get any support. But at that critical moment I felt that I was on a path to recovery, but that it was going to be a very long path. Now, BPD, or borderline personality disorder, or sometimes referred to as emotionally unstable personality disorder, I can have some changes in feelings and behaviours that I can have towards people. Just bear in mind that these only come in when I'm in a really low state of mind. So things like intense emotions that last from a few hours to a few days and can change quickly, from feeling very happy and confident to suddenly feeling low and sad. Other things can include finding it hard to make and keep stable relationships, acting impulsively and doing things that could harm me. Very rarely I can have very intense feelings of anger, which can be really difficult to control. Here's an example how stigma and discrimination has affected me. In December 2014, I started working for a large nationwide mobile phone sales company. I use this example because, as small as it may be, it had a huge impact on me, and it's still poignant today. I do have other examples of how stigma and discrimination has affected me. There are too many to fit into such a small thing like this, so I'm just going to use this one. I enjoyed the work and the interaction with so many people from different walks of life. It was a great perk of the job. However, when my mental health affected me in a bad way, I wasn't supported by management or even the colleagues that I worked with. I remember one colleague who was so lovely, but I hit rock bottom, and then when I sought advice and support from my manager, I was discriminated against and told that I should just man up and deal with it. These comments, these phrases are used, day to day. Looking back on it, I don't know what went through her head to say those things. Even if you don't mean them with any sort of malice, it still affects somebody going through a tough time. At that point, I just felt that, does the company care? Am I a number to them? And then I just try to carry on. I just try to get my head down and carry on with work. But 9 months later, I just gave up and walked out of the job. I tried for 9 long months to get through that. And at that time, you would have thought that the company would have made any sort of attempt to get involved with avenues of support. Nothing ever materialised from that. Walking out was probably not the best decision that I've ever made, but I think it was one that I had to make. Otherwise, my health would have got to the point of no return. It's only in the last few years that I feel like that I'm in a better place now. Being supported by friends, family and colleagues, I feel much better now than I did maybe 10, 15 years ago. Don't get me wrong, I do go through very, very tough periods at the minute with my mental health where I do have that influx of good points and then bad points. Think of it like a roller coaster, where the good points are where, the top of the roller coaster, where I feel at my highest point, where I feel very confident, very happy, like I want to be around. And then my lowest points are at the bottom of the roller coaster. I've always used the roller coaster as an example because it's a very good way to identify it and show it to people, especially when I'm doing presentations. I'm so proud now to have all the opportunities that I've had, where I've ended up being on the BBC. Well, last year I ended up being a supporting artist, or some people might know them as extras, in a BAFTA Cymru nominated TV show called Life and Death in the Warehouse. I ended up being in that. Which was one of my proudest moments when we found out that it was BAFTA nominated. Yeah, that was crazy. Other things that I've done, I've worked on big theatre productions, small little amateur productions, large scale events from the Insomnia Gaming Festival. Now, looking back to all those years ago when I was in school, I don't think I would have ever had the confidence or courage to pursue this line of career. I'm really proud to do all the things that I've done. I've done a lot of volunteer work. I'm proud to represent Time to Change Wales in such a positive light, sharing my story with businesses and companies across Wales to educate and to inform and to help people. Because if this story can help somebody else going through tough times at the minute, then I feel like I've done something right. So I'd like to thank you for listening. If you feel like you'd like to reach out, I am more than happy if you would like to reach out. I am in no means a mental health expert or qualified or anything like that, but if you'd just like somebody to talk to, I am more than happy for that. I'm more than happy to signpost as well to anything that I feel might help you. I'm happy to do that as well. So thank you for listening, and I hope you have an amazing day.